Hey, what is going on YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are in the Borodino, the newest rental ship to come to World of Warships Legends. And guys, I really like this ship. We've got a few things to go over in this video, and because some people don't understand how YouTube works, they're going to think my clickbait potential title is the absolute final answer on what this ship can be. And I'm here to tell you, this ship is what you make it. This ship is a very accurate Russian battleship. However, she does have some weaknesses, one of which being the fact that she only has 6 guns, which you can kind of see here in game. Now, speaking of the game, we did actually get a pretty fantastic replay. And of course, a few paid actors always go along with some of these replays, with this Sinop being one of those right here. Flat broadside Russian battleship, what do you think would happen? Of course, 2 overpens, a penetration, and a bounce somewhere. I don't know where, but somewhere on that Sinop. And if this Sinop can teach you anything about Russian battleships that we don't need to show you in our own game, it is never sail broadside in Russian ships. They have some of the most exposed citadels. Now, that being said, you do have some very chunky armor. As you can see, we were shot by, I think, a Kansas and or a Richelieu there, and we only took minimal damage. This thing, when not showing broadside, is an absolute Russian tank. Now, we did mention the bow. It is a 25mm front plate there, which can be overmatched by a majority of the battleships at tier 7 and above. However, the 400mm bulkhead, as well as a very chunky mid armor belts there, as well as the citadel belts, can save you from a lot of damage. Just make sure you are not completely bow tanking. So it is actually probably a good thing that you have that 25mm bow to teach a few people angling. But finally, after 3 broadside salvo attempts, we just missed the dev strike on the Sinop, but we do get a few or 2 citadels there and the kill, which will be our first of the match. So again, RNG dictates a lot of these games. We had a broadside, and judging off of the first 2 salvos, you would say that this ship is awful, but judging off of the third one, you would claim that this ship is the best ship ever. Nothing really changed except for a little bit of the distance and, of course, our dice rolls, or our RNG rolls, which most of you already know. So you do, or you will, lose a little bit of those dice rolls only having 2 turrets, especially if one of them gets knocked. It is the same fate that the Champagne and the Georgia are relinquished to, having only 6 guns, but you do get a little bit of a better package, considering you also get radar, as well as a secondary consumable, and the fact that both of those guns are on the front of the ship compared to the Georgia and the Champagne. So really, you don't need to show broadside at all in this ship. Now, of course, when doing so, you can get potentially stuck in a position and relinquished to reversing, at which point either a carrier, destroyer, or high DPM cruiser can easily take advantage of you. However, you are not stuck in the position of only having a limited number of damage cons, as some of the other Russian battleships do. You couple all of those pluses, we'll call them, on top of the commander build we're running with a reload mod, and you have a ship with a 25-second reload, all of the guns in the front, a radar, decent heals, a secondary consumable. The secondaries aren't that great, but you still have that consumable. And I think this ship is potentially in store for a little bit of a nerf before full release. Now again, that being said, of course, the Blueberries are going to get their hands on this ship. They're going to sail broadside, and they are going to get absolutely yeeted. This thing has a massive above water citadel. You couple that with some trolley dispersion, as we've gotten a few times, and some people are going to say that this is a terrible ship. I don't see it. We've only played 2 games, of course, and I've said this before, but new ship syndrome is a very real phenomenon. Anytime a new ship comes out and you get a good game in it, everyone and their mother will say XYZ, this is why it's a good ship. The same thing goes for if you get a bad game in it. It is the worst ship ever, etc. You have to get a good 10 to 20 games in a ship with varied matchmaking to get a full comprehension. So I will say we still don't have a full grasp on this ship, but early impressions, I really like this ship. Also, I don't think this is news to some people, but again, we have instructions on toasters, don't put them in the shower. It is my job as a YouTuber, not my job, it is my hobby per se, to kind of hype up these videos sometimes. So most YouTubers or content creators will add an air of spice to their videos, and sometimes people take that as, oh, this is the best ship ever. Here, though, is a good example of potentially one of those balancing factors, right? You don't have the absolute best AA, and as you can see, you are kind of sluggish and slow, as well as having a large turning circle. That carrier landed 3 torpedoes, as we were kind of a slow reversing target, one of which ended up being a flood. And if the enemy team had positioned a little bit better, they could have potentially, gotten me on fire or gotten an angle on me to get my broadside. That being said, they didn't position that well, and this Kansas refused to switch to HE and continue to spam AP, as you can see here, as we chunk him for decent broadside damage, and he does pretty minimal damage to us. Now, that being said, he could have overmatched our bow, but and we'll also give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, considering this is a new ship. He may not have known the armor scheme or the weaknesses, but I do see a lot of battleship players refuse to switch to HE and just sit there and spam AP at the broadside and do 1 and 2 and 3,000 damage while they sit there and sail broadside themselves. So when the situation arises, you'll definitely want to switch to HE for this ship. However, it does have a pretty decent amount of armor surrounding it, so you won't be getting that penetration damage, especially from the cruisers. And we mentioned the damage cons, so just make sure you were trying to get a flank on this ship and or break its turrets. The ship does have weaknesses, but as you can see, sailing broadside to it, you're not going to last very long. But again, trying to tie in a bunch of things in this game, we have absolutely done our job as a battleship. We have attracted damage, we have dished out damage, and we've actually gotten an assisted cap as well. Getting an assisted cap in a battleship when appropriate, there was like this debate a while back that a battleship should not sit in the cap, and to a certain extent, that person was right. But here's actually a pretty fun shot. We launched that on the Lexington, and we actually do cheese what looks like a plunging fire citadel for kilt number 4 and the high caliber. But anytime you can get a cap in a battleship, you should do so when safe, right? When you are getting spammed and constantly reset, you are not necessarily helping your team, as that cap will take longer. But here is actually one of my favorite salvos. It just kind of emphasizes the dispersion and grouping. As you guys know, hitting destroyers at long range is kind of a little bit of a skill, as well as, just playing the game longer, getting those right leads. But here the Oyster Gotland is turning in. We get a pretty good set of grouping here, good Russian velocity, and good night. Thanks for playing for kill number 5 and the Kraken. But wait, there's more. As you can see, the Charlie cap is turning red, and there is one enemy cruiser left. Can we get the coveted, what do they call it, 6-pack, as you will say? But there is a slightly angled Helena, which is actually probably better for us. The amount of pen you have with these 406s is a decent amount, and the very light armored light cruisers are just going to eat those overpins, such as that Helena does here. Now, he actually turned in a little bit, which kind of threw our shells high, which is definitely an art of a cruiser player, but he is now broadside between multiple ships, as well as potentially, yeah, your carrier planes are over him. He was spotted by carrier planes, but here we kind of wait for him to make his move. We throw a few of those salvos into what looks like a little bit of his turn, and we get a beautiful finishing Pitadel there for kill number 6. And unfortunately, no Confederate. I don't think we did enough damage on the Oyster Yachtland or another ship to get our Confederate medal, but a Kraken, a high caliber, 6 kills, 146,000 damage. A little low on the damage, if we're being a little honest, but the enemy team just folded like a cheap chair, under the weight of an average American there. 29 at 29 XP, not that much XP either. 6 kills, as we mentioned, Kraken and a high caliber. So a fantastic ship. I really enjoy playing this ship. Now, again, I have limited games in it. We definitely need to do some more testing, but I think this ship is going to be very strong, and even on the potential OP side. But let's go ahead and show you the commander we were running. It's full accuracy. It's Mr. Lev Galler here, Galler, whatever you guys say. And I actually didn't know I was running gyrating drill bits, but I think it's actually appropriate. You're not going to be doing much moving. You shouldn't be doing much moving, all things going to, according to plan. But again, we're running full accuracy, and I actually had Will to Rebuild on, which I do apologize. We're going to go ahead and switch that to Firefighter, as that's actually the better legendary perk, especially when playing alone. But again, full accuracy with Scharnhorst and Mr. Cunningham here. Now, we did mention that it does have very good dispersion and grouping, so you could argue that you could potentially, throw in a few other inspirations as well. But I really don't think you need to run defensive, especially with the unlimited damage cons that this ship does have. As a lot of people like to run the other Russian battleship commander. But here are our modifications: aiming systems, propulsion for all my Chad battleship players, concealment is a good one, and we did have the legendary reload mod as well. I don't think you need it, but it's always fun to have, getting that little extra reload and damage boost, especially when you can get 5 or more kills. But here are the stats. We went over them yesterday. I'll go over them again. 64,200 health. The artillery with the upgrades, you actually get a decent amount of range there, especially with our build. 19.4 kilometers, a 25-second reload, and a 27-second turret traverse time. I believe that's, of course, with gyrating drill bits. You do lose a little bit of speed, but you also get a little bit of that Citadel boost, and again, with the legendary modification, a little bit more. Your AA defense is pretty mediocre. You do have some good short and medium range, but I've been told you want the long range AA. You will get some planes in close, but they've already gotten off their drop or their strike by that time. The gyrating drill bit slows down your speed, and we mentioned a very large turning circle over 1,000 meters there, and I think a 13.8 concealment. I actually just passed it. Decent heals, and I had a commenter say that the consumables don't really make sense, and they don't. The radar is nice. We didn't really use it at all in the 2 games that I've played, but it is nice to have against those pesky destroyers. It's 11.7 with 30 seconds of duration, so a pretty strong radar. The secondary consumable, though, is kind of useless, because if you're speccing into accuracy, you don't really using the secondaries. I'm sure you could spec into secondaries, but brawling in this thing with such a large Citadel is definitely not going to be a smart play. But here's the armor profile. Like we mentioned, that 25 millimeter bow, it's not as a detriment as you might think. Yes, it kind of sticks off, like a few Italians there with their giant nose, but you're very protected in the Citadel, and you will get some potential chunky penetration damage on the front of that bulkhead, but I don't believe that many ships have enough to go through that 25 and through that 400 millimeter plate there to Citadel you. So yes, chunk damage, but again, if you angle, kind of like we did in game, and if you know how to angle, then you will be mitigating a lot of that overmatch anyway. But here is the broadside Citadel. Oh my goodness. Make sure you are not caught broadside. Anything halfway up that ship, you will be getting yeeted. Now, it does have a decent thickness there, but I'm sure cruisers up close with that increased, you get more pen, obviously, the closer you get, can probably make you a meme. So, but there is the Borodino, a beautiful looking ship, a Russian hybrid battleship type there, with some decent guns. But I really enjoy this thing. I think it's a pretty good ship. I honestly think it'll be nerfed a little bit before full release. But, if you guys want to rent it, you do get a coupon. You do get the follow-up coupon off of purchase of another battleship. That is applicable, of course. But let me know what you guys think. If you have rented it, are you looking forward to the ship coming as potentially a campaign or, a doubloon ship in the future? I'm kind of excited to play it when we get home and hop on stream tonight. But you guys have a great day and a happy new year. If I don't, talk to you or see you guys till then, Aaron out. Peace.